Let me know if you recognize this pattern. Every time I don't pick my skin for a while, even a few days, my skin begins to heal a bit. I get hopeful that maybe it will be different this time and I won't pick again, or at least not as bad. But that never happens. So it feels like a really big letdown. It's weird because it happens again and again. And at some level, I know this, but it's also something I don't know how to change. Thanks for listening. This is something a client shared in my private support group, a question they shared. And I wonder if you relate to this pattern of hope and disappointment, hope and disappointment again. And it's like you logically you understand what's coming, and yet you keep playing out the same patterns. This is something called the cycle of disappointment. And it's one that those of us who struggle with chronic skin picking, hair pulling, nail biting, body focus repetitive behaviors, or addictions in general struggle with. And we struggle to know how to get out of it because insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So are we all insane? Or is there something else that's going on? There is absolutely something else that is going on. And we're going to explore that and unpack it in this episode because understanding what's really happening beneath this pattern will help to set you free from it. You are listening to episode 102 of Beyond Skin Picking and Hair Pulling, a podcast that is dedicated to helping you uncover and address the root cause of why you struggle with a body-focused repetitive behavior like chronic skin picking, hair pulling, and nail biting. My name is Rafaela Marie. I'm your host. I struggled with chronic skin picking for 15 years. I found my path to healing from it through a science-based and holistic approach. And now I share everything that I know with you on this podcast so you can heal as well. If you appreciate this resource, please do leave a 5-star review or even leave a comment sharing what it feels like to find and have access to a resource like this. Because I know from my struggle with chronic skin picking, I used to spend hours searching for something that could make me feel seen and heard and understood, and that could give me some answers. Speaking of answers, let's get into this episode. If you've been listening to this podcast long enough, you'll know that everything we do is for a reason. Every behavior that we have has a purpose to serve us, even if it feels like it's just hurting us. And so, what is the purpose of the disappointment cycle? It is a survival tactic to help us deal with the fear of the unknown. And there is so much unknown in healing from a BFRB. It's hard to live with the constant underlying fear of, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I can heal from this. I don't know if what I'm doing right now is actually going to help me. And so we cling to hope to give ourselves a break from the fear. It's like being stuck in rapids and you can't get out. And the only thing holding you above the surface is a piece of driftwood. The cycle of hope and disappointment repeats because to let go of hope feels like drowning. Yes, there is a lot of unknown in healing from a body focused repetitive behavior, and it's an exhausting, isolating, difficult journey. And so understandably, we're going to want to find ways to just escape from the struggle itself. But I wonder if there's something deeper going on. And I found these brilliant questions to reflect on. When you feel disappointment, ask yourself, what was the picture I had in my mind which was not realized? Because we can only be disappointed if we had an expectation for a different outcome. We had an expectation that was not met. In the case of what this person posted in our group, they expected things to get better. They hoped things would get better, and they didn't. And I know I've been there so many times. The amount of times I told myself, this is the last time. This is getting better now. And then it wouldn't. It sucks. But this is the real question. What fear is causing me to set up these expectations? Yes, it's fear of the unknown, but what else? If I think back to when I was struggling, I was afraid of feeling stuck. I was afraid of the devastation of feeling stuck and thinking this is it. This is all I have. This is all I have to experience in my life. I was afraid of feeling trapped in a really hard reality, in a reality that did not make me happy, that made me feel small, that made me feel weak, that made me feel like I wasn't good enough. It was a reality that I felt like I could not handle. And if you resonate with what I'm saying, I want to ask you another question. When else in your life have you felt trapped or stuck? For me, I had many moments of feeling trapped or stuck as a child, and I used hope as a way to cling to things will change. It's going to get better. It's going to be okay. And my mum would also tell me that all the time too, that things would get better, and they never would. But that hope made the difficult reality, the difficult emotional reality we were living in, bearable. If I could cling to hope and think things will get better, I could ignore how painful things were right now. I could ignore how alone I felt. I could ignore how rejected I felt, how not good enough I felt. I could ignore those things because I thought things will get better, it will be okay. And when things get better, I'll be okay and I won't feel this way anymore. And I didn't just use hope to help me to escape from those feelings. I used to lose myself in fantasy books. I used to lose myself in my imagination, constantly daydreaming. And I would be constantly telling myself things will get better. But I didn't have the control to actually make things better as a child and teenager. You don't have that power. And so that desire for things to change was also underpinned by a feeling of powerlessness. I hope things can get better, but I feel powerless to make that happen. And so I'll cling to hope. I'll cling to that piece of driftwood to keep my head above water, because letting go, I'm going to drown in those feelings of being trapped and not good enough and that pain that I'm still carrying. The thing is, you and I are adults now. We do have power. We do have choice, we have control, but we keep living out these patterns that served us in a time when we didn't have power and we didn't have control, when clinging to hope was all that we had. You have so many more opportunities, so much more control, so much more autonomy and power. You have choices that you can make. And so what do we do from here? Stop running from the grief of what you should have had, of what you didn't get to have. Stop running from the guilt. Stop making excuses and dismissing how you feel. Stop saying it wasn't that bad. Stop saying, oh, but my parents did the best they could. What we need to do is to face the truth of how we feel. And this is not to blame anyone. You could have had amazing parents. Maybe they were struggling themselves. Maybe they didn't see you fully. Maybe they didn't know how to help you handle big emotions. Stop dismissing the pain that caused. Accepting reality does not equal blaming someone for it. It's just acceptance of the truth of the hurt that you have felt in your life, and that it was real and that it is real. And if you don't know how to face those feelings, if you don't know how to face those truths, get help. You're not supposed to do this alone. This pain that every single human being carries. We all carry shame. We all carry hurt. We all carry rejection. We all carry resentment. We all do. This pain was created in connection with another person. And so the only way to truly process it and heal is through connection with another person, through healthy connection with another person. Stop running. The reason why we feel like we're going to drown if we let go of hope is because there is a whole heap of emotion and pain that we have not yet learned how to process. It feels like too much because it felt like drowning when we were in it, because we didn't know how to process it. We didn't have help. We didn't know how to get through that emotion, how to deal with it, how to understand it. We did drown in it then. It really did feel like drowning. But now you're an adult and you have the mental capacity to learn how to sit with and process that emotion in a healthy way. You don't have to let go of hope to feel those things. But we need to let go of using hope as a way to avoid feeling those things. Things will get better. But for them to truly get better, it's going to fucking hurt to sit with those things because you were truly hurting at one stage. And there is no amount of logic, there is no amount of reason that can make that less. At some stage, you got to feel the things that you didn't get to feel. In reflecting for this episode, I have identified how many ways I have used hope as a way to cope, as a way to deny reality, truth, to really sit in the pain of reality. And a big place I used that was in my relationship. And I want to start this by saying I love my husband. He's amazing. I love our relationship, and I'm so proud of how far we've come. And we've also been through some really hard things. I shared in a podcast episode, I think over a year ago, that I was going to leave my husband. I made the decision and I had the conversation. We're still together, so obviously things did not go down that path, but I had made the decision. What allowed me to make that decision was because I accepted the reality for what it was. I acknowledged the hope of how I wish things could be, but I truly allowed myself to accept the reality of how things actually were. And it was heartbreaking, deeply heartbreaking. So, so painful. No wonder I had been clinging to hope. It's one of the most painful things I've ever experienced. And I've experienced some pretty painful things in my life. So I get it. I get it. I really do. There is a very real reason why you're playing out this cycle. There is very real pain sitting underneath there, and I get it. And I gotta say, really allowing myself to sit in the reality, just this example in my relationship, sit in the reality of what things were actually like, not how I hoped they would be, but the reality. It allowed me to accept the reality and to take action based off of that reality, which meant making the hard decision of, it's time for me to leave this relationship. That choice for myself was so deeply empowering and freeing. I was no longer drowning. I didn't need hope because I was taking action. I was using my power of choice that I had because I'm an adult. I can choose. I didn't have to keep myself in a space where I felt trapped. And that was deeply healing. Deeply healing for both of us. And it really opened up an immense amount of growth and healing in our relationship. But it didn't happen until I let go of hope and accepted reality. And accepting reality meant feeling the heartbreak, not the surface level disappointment of, oh, he didn't do the thing that I asked him to do. The deep, heartbreaking disappointment of the easy reality I was hoping for does not exist. Allowing myself to feel and accept that heartbreak, accept that heartbreaking reality, so that the hope I was feeling could be placed somewhere, that I actually had some autonomy. I wasn't just waiting for someone or something to fulfill that hope. I stopped waiting for my husband to show up the way I was hoping he would, and I accepted the reality that based off of past experience, based off of behavior, that wasn't going to happen. And so instead, I felt that heartbreak and placed my hope in myself that I can make hard choices. I can do hard things. I can choose myself despite how painful it might be. And I can move forward rather than sitting and waiting for things to get better. I accepted the reality that no one was coming to save me from my tower. And so I figured out a way to fucking get out of it myself. And that's really hard because it can make you feel so alone. But it's also incredibly, incredibly empowering. And for me and my husband, it was the catalyst for incredible growth in our relationship. But I had to let go first. And I had to take my happiness, my fulfillment, my joy into my own hands and stop waiting for someone to give that to me. Another cycle of disappointment I had to break was the hope that if I just stopped touching my skin, that things would get better. I didn't touch my skin for 3 months straight, and then my skin wasn't actually much better than it was than when I picked, because I had really, really bad hormonal acne, and I had to accept the heartbreaking, disappointing reality of that I had some pretty bad skin problems, some really bad hormonal issues that were causing this problem. And this problem of chronic skin picking was a lot bigger than just picking my skin. It ran a lot deeper, physically and emotionally. And it's a heartbreaking reality of this isn't a simple fix, and it fucking sucks. And it feels heavy and disappointing. And I understand the feeling of just wanting to be saved, just wanting to be whisked away, to be saved, to be okay. One of the biggest things that I would daydream about when I was a kid was someone coming to save me, like a long lost family member coming in and sweeping me away. I had a fantasy of they would live in this big mansion on a lot of land, and their house would be sitting in a clearing inside a forest. And they had these huge, beautiful iron gates that would open up, and we'd take a horse-drawn carriage down to the house. I love fantasy, so a lot of that played into my daydreams as a kid, but that was something that I used to spend a lot of time daydreaming about, to be saved in that way. And so there is a heartbreaking reality of healing from this is not that simple. It's not as simple as being saved, because you are going to save yourself. And that means going on the hero's journey yourself, not waiting for someone to take the hero's journey for you, to go through all those trials and challenges to come and save this person and whisk them away. You are the person that's going to do that. And it is the most rewarding and fulfilling and challenging journey you will ever do. And it's 110% worth it. Getting yourself out of the disappointment cycle is very much about accepting the heartbreaking reality that you are trying to escape, and leaning on hope in a more realistic and grounded, mature way, not the simplistic hope of being saved that we carry from a time in our life when we didn't have the capacity to save ourselves. And if you want support in your hero's journey, I am here for you. Currently, at the time of this recording, I do have space for more one-on-one clients. If you are interested in getting more direct support from someone who really does understand what it is like to struggle with a BFRB, then go into the show notes and click on send me a message and tell me about what has inspired you to reach out. If you want something a little more simple, you can also join my free WhatsApp support group. This is a space where I post in there weekly messages of motivation and insight and reminders, very important reminders that we all need on this healing journey. So if you want access to that, go into the show notes, also click on send me a message and share with me why you would like to join the group. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really do believe that you can heal. I believe that you deserve this. And I know it's hard, but you are the hero of your own story. And that is pretty fucking cool. And if you also think that's pretty fucking cool, make sure you leave a 5-star review, leave a comment about how this episode made you feel, and I'll see you next week for the next episode of Beyond Skin Picking and Hair Pulling.